Okay, good evening or good afternoon, everyone. I'm John Barrett, and we are here tonight for a candidates forum for the two positions open for the Townsend Board of Selectmen or the Select Board. Um, the election is going to be on Saturday, November 16th, and there are two open positions on the Select Board. One term which will end in April of 2026 and another term that would end in April of 2027. And we have four candidates here tonight who are interested in the position. For the 2026 term is Veronica Kell and Mark Huzzy are the candidates. And for the term ending in April of 2027, the candidates are Laura Schifrin and Rose Lambert. I first off would like to thank Townsend Community Access Media for hosting this event, and also thank all of the candidates for participating and getting involved in their town. It's I can't tell you how important it is, as all of you know, for people to get involved in our own self-government, and I do appreciate your willingness to do this. Um, Before we got on the air, if that's what you call it now, I had my secretary pull some names out of the hat to elect who would go first. I'm thinking what roughly we'll do is half of uh, half of the night we'll go with that order, and then we'll reverse it, so it's not all um, same person answer it the first time. It probably will blend off anyways at some point. Um, so I would ask that people, answer the questions. We have a range of questions. We might not answer all of the questions that were pre-posed to the candidates, but I think we'll probably hopefully hit most of them. And if I feel like someone is maybe going on too long, I don't want to set any hard limits as to how much time to spend on an answer. I think give it as much time as you think it warrants. But if someone is repeating themselves or is uh, sort of going on a little bit too long, I might ask them to stop for a moment and let somebody else say something. Okay. All right. So, first question, and the order of questions tonight is asking for Laura Schifrin first, then Rose, then Veronica, and then Mark. And let me ask if any of you mind my using your uh, first name as opposed to your last name.
You
Fine.
can call me.
Any,
No.
No, I don't.
okay. All right. Just don't call you late for supper, right?
If you're cooking, yeah.
Well, you wouldn't want to attend my cooking.
Okay.
Mary's okay, but all right. So, Laura, would you please introduce yourself? Tell us something about yourself that you would like the public to know.
Okay. Well, I moved, I was born in Manhattan, New York, and raised in upstate New York, Rochester, and moved to Townsend in 1976 when my son was 6 weeks old. And I am a full-time and a half realtor in this community, probably since the late 70s. And I have enjoyed this community a great deal and hope to continue doing it for a while.
Uh-oh, your audio went out, Laurie. I can't hear you.
Are you sure?
I can hear
I
her.
could hear
Oh, maybe my audio
your
went
audio
out.
went out, John.
We can hear
Yeah,
you,
I've got
John.
all the yeah.
Okay, I can't hear anybody.
Oh, we can hear every.
So, Laurie, I think you had been telling us a little bit about yourself. Did you have anything else to say
Um,
on that?
no, I can't turn it
Just
over.
basic background. Okay.
Basically, told my background.
Yeah. All right. How about you, Rose? You tell us
Hi,
something about your background and um, well, tell us about yourself.
it's Rose Lambert. I go by the name of Reggie. I'm a high school graduate.
I've also worked at Brandeis University. I have an HR certificate. I have three great children and two grandchildren. I've lived in Townsend since 2012, and I do volunteer work at the VFW on Cheeseburger Wednesday and also on Friday at Bingo's. I've also donated my time to the Brockton Housing and was awarded Woman of the Year, but that was in the 70s. And that's about all I have to say.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Think Veronica, if you could go next.
I'm Veronica Cal. I've lived here in Townsend for 40 years. We celebrated our first wedding anniversary here and our 40th.
Wow.
Our kids were born and raised here, and I've enjoyed being involved in the community, when the kids were in school, with the land trust, and with town government, from boards and committees over the years. And
Okay,
that's it.
all right, thank you. Mark?
Hello, everyone. My name is Mark Hussey. I'm running for the vacant Selectman's office, term ending April 2026. I was raised in Townsend, graduated from North Middlesex in 1974, and then later in 1980 from the Peterson School of Engineering. Married, have three grown children, one grandson. I have recently retired as a facility manager, giving me more time to spend time on the Selectman's position. I've been on the Finance Committee for 6 years, Capital Planning for 5. My goal is to bring the board more transparency, honesty, and fiscal responsibility. I have no personal agenda, and my only focus will be what is best for Townsend and its residents. Thank you, and I ask for your vote.
All right. So I'm going to pick some of these questions and we'll sort of go around. Laurie first. If you could explain what experience you have in business management, and in a kind of a similar vein, what have you done to prepare for the position of select person?
Okay. Um, so I have an associate's degree from Bryant College, and that was in business administration with a primary focus on accounting. And also, as a realtor, I have had many leadership positions during my career, both local, state, and national. Um, as a leader, I also took parliamentary procedure, Robert's Rules of Order. I belong to the Parliamentary Association, and in 1990, I was made the parliamentarian or the assistant to, and often took the place of the parliamentarian for our business meetings, the state level. So local president, state president, and regional vice president for a number of organizations affiliated with the Realtor Association. That's the National Association of Realtors. So leadership has kind of been in my veins. And with that, the thought of giving back to your profession as well as giving back to your community, I began in what I found in my office the other day, and I'll just have to show you the 1977 annual report for Townsend. I have one for each year. Since 1981, when I was appointed to the Finance Committee by Ed West, my name's appeared in the annual report every single year since 1981. In 1991, while I was still on finance, I was elected as an assessor. And I have served as an assessor since 1991, being an elected position. I have chaired finance and the Board of Assessors. I then went into the Housing Authority. And during my tenure on the Housing Authority was 7 years of hard work, but the community was totally involved in the establishment of Townsend Woods, which added 36 affordable housing units to the town. It was it was very rewarding to see that come to take place. And then after that, we did a Habitat House. At that time, Michelle Cannon was chair, but I have chaired the Housing Authority for many years. I just went off that a couple of years ago. 8 years ago, I was asked to get on the planning board and then was elected to the planning board. And I have chaired the planning board for the last 3 years. I vice chaired before that. And um, and also am the member of the planning board that serves on MRPC, which is the Massachusetts Regional Planning Commission. And many years ago, while I was on the assessors, I would ask about that board and why aren't we doing more or why aren't we getting more grants? And so what happens when you open your mouth is you then become the person who goes to MRPC. And I am currently chairing MRPC. And with that position, I get to serve on the MPO, which there's a meeting of tomorrow. So I have also served on capital planning. I'm on the Historic Commission now as a Realtor representative. And I served on the task force to hire the police chief. I served on 2 task forces and chaired the last one to hire the town administrator. So I think that my background, and of course, I've been in business for a long time. I've been here 27 years now, in 19 in my position before at Harbor Realty. So business is my background. I know what it means to have income and expense and what you need at the end. I'm not a big person on debt. So I think I'm pretty prepared. I think to go with the questions, and Steve, like writing the same thing of why you want to be a selectman now.
Well, Laurie, if you don't mind,
Well, okay.
we can get to that. I just want to get a little bit more about your experience and what you've done to prepare. I know we've got those questions there. I think that why do you want to be a
Okay.
selectman might be the final question.
Okay. All right. Fine.
Uh, um,
I think my background is pretty much out there. I've been on a lot of tasks, committees, elected boards, as well as appointed boards for the town for many years.
okay. All right. Well, thank you.
Thank you.
Rose, could you tell us about your experience in business management and what you have done to prepare to become a select person?
Yes, I was the co-owner of R&R Service Center. I have 4 years of bookkeeping, 2 years of accounting, and I'm like Laurie, I don't like a lot of debt. If you know how to do your assets equals, minus liabilities equals your proprietorship, add your income minus your expense, and there's your proprietorship. And I've done that for many years. I also, when I was working at Brandeis, I was doing accounts payable and accounts receivable, not just for the employees, but also all of the students for their phone bills. Um, and I also serviced all of the police, the fire, the school buses, and billed them accordingly. Made sure if they were in arrears, they got a notice. I do business management almost daily on a day-to-day basis. And I think that I'm, responsible for that. And that's all I'd really have to say about that as far as, my bookkeeping experience and my accounting. I also have an HR certificate from Brandeis University, and I manage very well.
Okay. And you mentioned an HS certificate. Could you explain what that
Human
is?
resources,
HR.
Okay.
Human resources.
Okay. All righty. Okay. Thank you, Rose. Veronica, could you tell us about your business management experience and what you've done to prepare for a position on the select board.
So as far as background goes, I have a BS in math and a MS in numerical science, which is applied math and computer science. That was what you got in the 80s. Anyway, I for business management, I guess the thing that it probably fits the best was the Townsend Conservation Land Trust, which was a nonprofit here in town that was formed as a result of the master plan back in the 80s. And, we were an all volunteer land trust. So we did everything from budgeting, doing our taxes, forms that are required for the state, figuring out how to generate income and what we had to spend. So from a business management standpoint, that might be the most on task for that. When I worked as a software engineer, I was a project leader. So that involved managing people, figuring out our timelines, those sorts of things. And I also worked as a teacher. During my time as a teacher, I worked as a consultant for DESE. And so that was my own consultancy. So I did my own planning for that and reporting for that. So business management, that probably fits that. As far as what I've done to prepare for the position of selectman, I've served on many boards and committees in town, including the Conservation Commission, the Planning Board, Capital Planning, and I was also a selectman for the 3 years of the pandemic. I've worked on the Solar Bylaw Committee, the Master Plan Committee, the committee to find a new town administrator. I'm currently the chair of the Townsend Affordable Housing Trust. So I guess that would be my preparation.
Okay, thank you, Veronica. And Mark, you could talk about business management experience and what you've done to prepare for the position as a member of the select board.
Sure. As a facility manager, I managed many large commercial buildings from the grounds to the roof, creating the budget for the building's operations, safety, maintenance, and capital investments. These budgets were generally $5 to $20 million in total, depending on the size and infrastructure. I also led the teams that took care of all the infrastructure of the building, from electricians to subcontractors, building officials, and it goes on and on. But I believe that's my business experience for now. I've been on both, as far as preparing for the select person, I've been on both the finance capital planning committees, giving me the insight to the town's finances, along with attending countless selectmen meetings and following the process to be more informed on how the town functions.
Okay.
Sweet.
All right. Well, thank you. I think now we'll get into more of the issues of the day as opposed to the backgrounds and experience of all of you. I guess I'll go to that question for Laurie. What do you perceive as the most pressing issue in Townsend? And this might sort of blend in with the next one. I suspect the next one concerns education and budgets. But what would you say is the most pressing issue, and what other issues do you think are of concern to you in town now?
Well, currently, we're going through what might be considered a bit of a growth experience, in that we have a brand new town administrator. So that's a challenge right now. It may not be evident to many of the townspeople, but it is. Our regional school system is an issue because of the cost of it. We have 40 less students in this last year, and we had to come up with $1.3 million more. And that was because we, as a town, many years ago, agreed to be regional and have special needs classes, which the state and federal said they would supply the funds for. That's not something we can come up with overnight. And obviously, we found out this year they have reneged on that and not given us the money that we needed. So the budget and expenses and where we're going to put our money is a challenge. We have ARPA funds coming up. We have a fire truck that needs to be purchased. We have things for public safety that need to be done, and that's going to be a challenge. I was at the community event this afternoon for the electricity aggregation, and we could have had a town meeting. There was over 100 people there. Sorry? Yep, just excuse me. Excuse me for 1 minute. I am really sorry. Rose, can you do?
Go ahead, Laurie. Do you want to come back to that?
I'm sorry.
Did somebody pop in?
That's okay. Yeah, somebody popped in. Sorry, I didn't close the door. Thank you. We're okay. So
Okay.
where was I? On the ARPA funds, and I mean, there's a lot of budgetary things that have to be taken care of, and I see those as primary and as a priority for us.
Okie doke.
Thank you.
All right, Rose, can you comment on the most pressing issue in town, and what you think are some other
I
concerns?
think a lot of it is budget. I know the schools are having a problem. I did research that, and they have funds for learning, which is an ER rate form 470. I know that they've already gone up to $3.9 billion on discounts for eligible services and products, and they have prepared over 25,000 funding requests totaling $2 billion. I'm thinking maybe that's something that we could look into, see if they can help out on that. I'm not sure if they could or not, and I don't know if we can go for state funding or federal funding. I think money's got to come from the state and the federal government. I think that town people here have been taxed and taxed and taxed, and I don't think that, that's an affordable thing for the taxpayers to pay. And I know that we're in the deficit, we don't have the money. And I would like to see if we can probably, see if there's something there for the schools. I don't know how many people, if we go through the tax bills and we see that Townsend people are paying more than Ashby and Pepperell, how many students do we have in the school as opposed to the other two towns? And are we picking up the brunt of it? And we don't have the school children going to these schools, and we're paying more money for the schools, and we don't have the children in those schools. So maybe that's something else we could look at too. Maybe they can rebudget it and say, okay, for instance, Pebble can pay X amount extra dollars, or Ashby can pay extra dollars. I don't feel that there's that many students here in Townsend going to the school. Like she said, she just lost 40 less students this year.
For Townsend.
For Townsend.
Pepperell pays more than we do because they have more.
But I don't know what the ratio is and how much they're paying per child per capita as opposed to what we're paying. And I think that's something we should look at also.
Okay. All right, Veronica, could you comment?
The first question was, what do we perceive the most pressing issue in Townsend?
Pressing issue, yeah.
I believe it's having the funding to keep all the services our community has come to expect. So how do we do that? We want to make sure we still have the community centers that we have, both at the library and the senior center. We expect all the emergency services, and we do have terrific emergency services here in town. And the schools have been over the past 3 or 4 years, we've needed an override for the schools, and they have been very good about going back and examining their budget and making sure that we could, all three towns in the regional district could manage without huge overrides. And we've finally come to the point where the schools have no more funding to use. And so we do have to look at that. And really, it's the school committee who determines that budget and then works with the town. And I believe that the town has been trying to do that, all three towns, for the past 5 years at least, because it just came to a head this year, but it's been in the making for a while. As far as the next two priorities go, I would want to make sure that all the positions that are needed in town are staffed. We have a very difficult time keeping staff on because Townsend pays middle of the road as far as salary goes, and people that are looking to increase their salaries typically have to leave town. But I would really like to see us able to keep the staff that we have trained here in town. That includes all the departments. The other thing, I think it's making sure that the town remains affordable for everybody, whether it's for seniors looking to downsize. It's real. If you've lived in this town a long time and you have a many-bedroom home that you don't need, you don't need the space anymore. It's very difficult to find a place to move to. So that's something that I think needs to be looked at. Things are in the works. The planning board did put in a 55 and over market rate. However, though the few that have been built so far are really on the higher end of what someone looking to downsize would want. So that becomes a problem. And I consider that a bigger problem for people leaving the town than the tax rate in town. There's taxes everywhere. And a lot of towns are having the same difficulties Townsend's having. So that's my answer to that question. Was there a second question in there, John?
I think the only other thing was, what other priorities beyond the most pressing one. I think you sort of covered a lot of issues there, Veronica. I think you've got a couple extra priorities of things that are urgent for the town.
Did I answer the question?
I think you did. Yeah. We'll probably come back to some of these issues anyways. Mark, could you tell us what you perceive as the most pressing issue in town? And apart from the most pressing issue, what do you think of the next two most pressing problems?
Sure. I agree with everyone. The budget is certainly a major issue for the town. We need to control it. We got to stop some bleeding. I don't know. I certainly understand it's a school issue too. I think they're up to over 60% of our budget right now. And it's not the school's fault. It's the state's fault for their mandates. And like someone mentioned earlier, they used to help us out. They don't anymore. We can't count on them. But it angers me that they have the mandates that they do and expect the town, the residents, to foot the bill. It's impossible. There is no way that this town can sustain the increases that are not the school, but the state requires of the school, and have an override every year. We can't do that. The Townsend will not do it. I mean, we have to find some medium between the state helping us and of course us supporting our schools. Same thing goes with public safety. I totally agree with Veronica. We don't want to cut anybody. We have union contracts, so that we have to abide by. There's no getting away from it. So I guess the best thing that we can do is look closer at the budget, talk to all of the managers, and see what we can't cut. And I'm not talking personnel. That would be the last thing I'd ever want to do. But what will the town do if another override is not voted? We have to look at that. And again, I don't blame the schools. I blame the state. They just don't stand behind us anymore. They renege, is what I heard. A second issue I think we have in town are the roads. We have a lot of people that are upset with our roads. We're looking for economic growth, but when you come into a town that doesn't have good roads, it's not very appetizing, I guess I can say. Where that money comes from again, the state doesn't do what they used to, that's for sure. So it's things that we're just going to have to get together and figure out how we, what's the best way we can handle these situations. And of course, the third one is the trash. Townsend has grown to have trash in their budget every year. I get it, I liked it too, but it's at a point where, we might have to do something else with it. Maybe invest into a transfer station so we don't have to pay these big bills to the suppliers or the carriers. I don't know the answer, but we need to investigate a lot of different things for these issues that we do have in town. And it's not impossible to do. A lot of teamwork, hard work, good thinking. I'm up for it. So those are the issues that I see in town right now, the major three.
Okay, thank you. I think we've all, I think you have all touched on this, but the next question, and I think if you can drill down a little bit more on it, I think some of you already have sort of talked about it, so maybe you don't have to expand on this too much, but I think we're seeing that problem which we've all mentioned is the cost of education and its competition with the rest of this town's budget. And I guess I just offer that education has always been important for Massachusetts, and I think everyone feels that we do owe the best education for our young people that we can give them. But we have that in competition between the school budget and just funding general government and all our other expenses as a town. So and this does leave a problem for young families paying taxes and for older folks who are seeing their taxes rise all the time and feeling that they can't afford to live in this town anymore. So again, this is a little bit of a reprise on what you did talk about as the most important issues, but I'd like to, if you can drill down a little bit more on that unfortunate conflict between funding the school budget and funding the rest of the town budget. Laurie?
I don't know how I can say much more than what's already been said, but I can tell you at the last annual meeting which went late because of the school, it just seemed like I understood all those people who were there who, felt the need to defend the school budget for their children. And nobody feels stronger than having good education for our children than I do. But there's more to running the town, not just the school budget. And it was disheartening to see so many leave after the vote, and to a point where we ended up with no quorum to finish the business of the town. And so my point is, town is more than just the school. It is our police, it is our fire, it is our staff people in the offices. We do not have retirement funds for firefighters. Try keeping them. And we have great volunteers. I respect them highly. If you hear them going here and there and everywhere, my God, I think one day there was 12 calls. And being here on Elm Street, I hear it, all the time that they're out. Where would we be without them? So we have to think more about as Veronica said, how are we going to keep the staff people? We're just losing another one this week. We didn't have a conservation agent who was not posted for either for months. And our land use coordinator was taking over those duties, which are split between the planning board, who's split between the zoning board. And they're all multitasking. And I understand that you get a lot done when you can multitask. But we're losing our land use coordinator now, and she hasn't even been with us a year. So, as Veronica pointed out, that's a major thing we have to consider. So it isn't just the schools. Let me get back to my thought about the annual meeting. I never really considered because I always thought it was a mandate, even from when I was first on finance in 81. Is there a way to get out of the region?
The regional school, you mean?
Yeah. Has it ever been discussed? I mean, Ashby has a very small population compared to ours. They're probably still under 4,000. We're under 9,000. The closest we ever got to 9 was 9,998. And they went, oh my God, we can't go over 10,000. Well, we didn't. We went into a moratorium, and now we have under 9,000 people in Townsend. So I don't know. I think that's all the points I'm going to make right now.
Okay. All right. All right. Thank you. Rose, do you want to add anything to your comments about the difficulties with the budget with the school and other town needs?
Well, I know that 60% goes to the school. My question is, when they had COVID and they were not in the school, what did they do with the budget that was allotted them the 2 years that the kids were not in school? That's what I would like to know. How much was allotted to them? Where did it go? And how was it used? And I don't know how I can find that out, but somebody here with a lot more experience can probably tell me. They don't let us, the townspeople, I should say, not just me, but townspeople. I like to go out for walks, and I am not allowed to go on school property to walk around their track. It's not allowed. Why? If they're the taxpayers.
We used to.
We used to, but
We used to before the new school was
before
built.
the new school
we
was
did.
built, we can't use the school grounds. We can't walk their track. We can't, walk a dog if we have a dog. We can't, enjoy just sitting on the bleachers and just having a cup of coffee with friends. And I want to know why we have a 60% budget for the school. What exactly does the school need that it doesn't already have?
So you've got a lot of questions that you would like to have answered if you became on the select board. Okay.
Do you have any resources
Veronica,
on how I can
I'm
find
sorry.
out what
Go
those
ahead, Rose.
answers are?
Yeah. Okay. Anything else, Rose?
No, I'm good.
Okay. Veronica?
Well, I think that the schools are really important, and I think that we need to support them as much as we can. I did vote for the override because of my time as a selectman. I knew that the operating budget for the town had been pretty much cut as much as it could be. We did ask for overrides in 2021, I think it was, 2022, 2023, and 2024. And that was often to support both the town and the school budgets as best we could. The overrides in Townsend didn't pass the first 3 years. And we did cut the budget as much as we could. There is no longer a contractor that comes in to cut the grass for the town buildings, for example. There was a lot done with energy aggregation. The community piece is only now coming to fruition. But about 4 years ago, we did municipal aggregation because that has a different process than community aggregation. So a lot was done on the community side to tighten things up. The town, we held the operating expenses to 2%. This is not the salary side, but the other side. And the schools then relooked at what they were doing to make things manageable. I think this year it really came to a head. And I think that what we have to do, and yes, it's 60%. It's been 60% for a while, hovering there, back and forth. 59, 61 for many years. I think that what, as a town, we need to do is look at any restructuring we can do of departments. Can we combine facilities, parks and cemetery and parks, the highway department? Is there a way to the Board of Health? Can we combine trash pickup? Can those be combined, and therefore we can use personnel a little more wisely? I really don't see closing buildings a day a week as a way of successfully budgeting. I think we just have to look at what can be done differently. The schools have looked at that. They are really at the end of their ability to do that. So, I agree with Mark, pressure on the state to get things done otherwise. And that, again, that's been ongoing. I know when I was a selectman, we met with representatives trying to get things changed. And you get a little bit, but you don't get the big piece that you need. So we just have to look at how we're going to do this. I know the schools are looking at closing buildings, which, in my lifetime, my kids went to Squanicook Elementary School. We built that school during my time here in town. We renovated Spalding, but we had a lot more children in town than we do now. So I don't know. I don't have the solution, but I'm certainly willing to look at what's there and, to look at how things can be done differently in town. Trash is the one place where there's a big pot of money there. That is one of the largest pieces of the town budget. And so that was the logical place when we were required to fund the schools at the ask that the override failed for. And really, the town was split on that override. That was really a 50-50. Could have gone either way. We're looking at one or two votes one way.
I've not seen it that close ever.
And how many times do you do a recount on that? So, we just really have to look at how do we restructure trash. I think that doing what we're doing now, we need to look at how that works. People are, if you believe Facebook, people are paying for their own trash, but maybe there's a way to a happy medium there, but anyway, it needs more looking.
Yep. Okay. All right. Thank you, Veronica. Mark, can you supplement this discussion? Your views?
Yeah. What was the question again?
Well, basically is because I know it's kind of generic, and you did touch on it a little bit with the most pressing issue, and I think it's all sort of boils down to the difficulties with funding the school, the way it needs to be funded, and also providing for the other needs of the town, and not, I think, breaking the backs of taxpayers. But
got it. You know what? I think Laurie had a really good comment that the town budget is not just the school; it's the whole town. And I'm not dissing the school at all. I'm really not. But we have to manage the town too, on top of 60% of our budget or more going to the schools. Again, I already talked about the state. That's a major factor. We really. And we're not the only town. Every town around us has the same issue. A lot of people did go for an override this year, but a lot of towns did not, including us. it's really tough. And like Veronica said, who knows what the answer is really, other than investigating, asking questions, getting the state involved. I'm hoping that at some point the state's going to go, the towns are dying. Maybe they'll help us. I don't know. I doubt it. I have no faith in the state helping us or any town. But I think what might help the residents in town be a little more receptive to an override for the schools would be more transparency with it, with their budget. Their budget is huge. It is. I've seen it. I know a lot of you guys have. Um, there's a lot of things that need to be explained in it just to make us understand really what we're paying for. I think that would help the school itself. But again, we need the state to step in, and I have no, I don't expect them to. I have no faith in the state. I really don't. And that's about all I got to say. I
All
said
right.
it before, and that's it. So
Okay, Mark. Thank you.
Yeah.
So I know we're getting short on time, and I think going to ask folks to provide fairly short answers to the next couple of questions. Um, do you have an opinion on how we could strike a balance between economic development and conservation? Laurie?
So, we've been talking about economic development or adding businesses to town since I got here. And I've not been a selectman, but we had TBA. John, you were part of that charter group, and I was a charter member of it as well. And it was active for many, many, many years and kind of gone by the wayside now, to promote town businesses. And that's what we did for many years. We used to go out and talk to any new business that came in and welcome them into the group and show the promotions that we did. However, that's gone by the wayside. I don't know, the mixed use zoning is going to help, I think, hopefully. Um, and I hope that by next year we see some of that coming about so that we have maybe some smaller residents and people able to go within walking distance to either the post office or getting something to eat or getting their nails done or whatever. That's something I think that we have to look forward to. So after being here so long and not seeing a lot of growth, it's hard for me to say how that's going to happen. And by conservation, do you mean our conservation properties or do you mean conservation of funds?
Conservation of land, I guess, protecting like the environment.
Oh, we're terrific in that. I think we get a plus in conservation land and
Right,
state-owned land. And yes, I think that our conservation committee and the zoning that we have for conservation, I think Veronica can speak to this as well. She was on conservation. We have more than a third of the town, more than a third of the town is land that is never going to be built on. It's state-owned or under conservation. So
Okay.
that's my comment.
All righty. Rose, can you answer that question about striking a balance between economic development and that's, but I mean, by that, I mean, the town is trying to encourage or used to at least have an industrial commission, in fact, and try to encourage businesses to locate in Townsend. But there seems to me sometimes there's a conflict between that and protecting our natural resources. So how would you try to balance those two?
Well, we do need some new growth. We do have a lot of conservation land, like Laurie had just said. But we need to start either building new buildings low, like single family ranch houses for the elderly that are moving out of the town because they don't have someplace to go. Like you said, if they have 3 or 4 bedrooms and they're not using them, They're not utilizing them. Their families either all gone or they live out of state. I think that, if they're looking to sell their house, we don't want them moving out of Townsend. We want them to stay here as long as they possibly can. So we need to start building either new low-income housing for the elderly. We have enough conservation land area that we cannot build on, and ask for, state or federal grants possibly to promote town and also promote town businesses to come into this area. But I don't know exactly where we would be able to build them because they have so much conservation land and we don't have any open land for people to build on. It's not like we have like a big portion of area like Sterilite that we can build
Right.
building on and get some kind of businesses in here. But we need to
Right.
generate some kind of revenue, and that's the only way we're going to be able to do it.
Okay, and I'm just
I-
going to ask each of you to supplement this a little bit because in the past, the town seems to have been presented with at least 2 or 3 times the past 10, 20 years, areas that were zoned for industrial development that a petitioner came in and moved that it be changed from zoning for industrial to residential. And so areas that were originally planned to be used for industrial development have been lost, and that doesn't leave much land for that. So I don't see industrial development by virtue of building more houses, because I think if the town had more industry here, it would help alleviate the tax burden on the residents. But so if that in that particular viewpoint, if you can comment, but I'm going to go to Veronica and Mark, and then come back to you, Laurie, and
Okay.
Rose, if you can just quickly reference that idea. And we are getting short on time. So Veronica, do you follow my drift there?
Well, I'm not sure if I'll answer it. As far as industrial zoned properties transferring to residential, that exact thing happened at town meeting this year. And it was voted by the town. If you're going to change the use of the property, the town has to agree to it, and the town did agree to it. So I
Well,
don't.
let me ask you, what could you offer in terms of leadership to prevent that from happening? It's one thing for a private individual to come into the town meeting and say, I want to change my zoning so I can build houses here.
It
If that
was
is going against the master plan, shouldn't town officials have a viewpoint on that?
Well, if it's petitioned in by the citizens, which this article was, there isn't really a lot that a selectman can do. It's up to the citizens to decide that,
Well,
not the select.
okay, all right.
But I guess I think one of the greatest strengths in Townsend is the conservation land that we have. And I believe the master plan addresses this. And what we should be doing is building on that strength. We're a wonderful place for outdoor opportunities, fishing. We have a wild and scenic river in town, canoeing, hiking opportunities. I think we need trail maps of the places in town. And then I think economic development will follow as far as small shops where you can go and get a sandwich or a cup of coffee. During my time as a selectman, we did have 3 new businesses come into town. And it would be great to have more come in. And I think that the rail trail is an excellent example of drawing people into town to enjoy what we have here. And then they go home to their respective communities because we have all this conservation land and nowhere to add more housing. But I think we really have an opportunity in town to build on that and make it attractive. We have on the common, we have a lot of fairs during the summer. We could look at that, and that could be a selling point for the town. And I think too, we need to attract younger families back into town. I know we've been talking about the schools and funding them, but I think that makes a big difference. You have a more vibrant community if you have the whole spectrum of age groups. So I think that economic development and conservation go hand in hand, especially in a town like Townsend that is sitting on an aquifer and is a cold water fishery, the easternmost cold water fishery in the state. We have a lot of species that need to be protected, and that's the reason for the conservation piece. But it isn't, I don't see it as a negative. I see it as a positive. But we need to have staffing in town and boards in town that build on what we have and encourage people to come here for community events and what we have to offer, which is really wonderful. It's why my husband and I are staying. We're not leaving.
All right, good. All right, Mark, thank you. Veronica, Mark?
Yeah, sure. I agree. Townsend, it desperately needs more economic growth. But with our location of major highways, it's not really simple. We missed the boat, I think, when cannabis was legalized, and I don't understand why we didn't get on board. It was a simple way to create jobs and income, but never materialized. I'm lost there. I really am. We do need to let Townsend grow with the times, such as the cannabis, but at the same time, try to be the small town that most residents want. It's a tough thing to balance. You're either busy and you make money, or you're not busy and you don't make a lot of money. I mean, certainly don't want to become like Groton. I don't know if anybody's gone through downtown there lately, but it's a madhouse. I'm glad I retired and don't have to do it every day. It's a tough one to crack. It's a tough nut to crack. It really is. But I do agree. We have good conservation. We have a lot of conservation land. I just don't know how much money you can make off of that. It's just a question, you know. Sure, it's great to have people come in all the time, but we're going to need to have those restaurants. We're going to have those ice cream stands, you know, all that stuff that they're looking for, and that has to be fit into the equation. So.
Okay, all right. And just Laurie and Rose, just a couple of words, if you would, about that to follow up.
Yeah, I'd like to piggyback on that. I failed to mention I was on Town Properties. I've been on that for a long time, and I chair it now. And just recently, well, in the last couple of years, we recommended certain properties to be auctioned off and whatever to the Board of Selectmen. Most recently, we went through the properties again that we had, and most of those recommendations are to go to conservation or auctioned off. So just get them off of our rolls and either somehow have some more tax revenue from them, or conservation has them to do with what they want. So that was one thing. But in reference to the piece that was changed from industrial to residential, we had a public hearing that came before planning. After looking at the maps and everything that surrounded that particular property, it should have never been industrial to begin with. It was never going to be an industrial property. So that being done by petition, and then voted by the town, I didn't feel bad about that one at all. In reference to the economic growth, we have the opportunities here now because there are vacant either offices or buildings in town that were either industrial or retail in the past. So there are opportunities for people to come here and have a business if they want it. The latest item that's come before us is a Starbucks for the bank building at the Harbor Mall. There'll be a public hearing on that very shortly. So there is room for growth and more business to come into town without us erecting another building, is what I wanted to bring up.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Rose, do you have any further to add?
Well, the land that she was saying, or the houses that she said, either auction them off or they go to conservation. if they auction them off, it would be probably be better for us because that way we would have the land and they would be able to build either a small retail store or whatever. Um, to be honest with you, I don't think we don't need another Starbucks. We've already got two McDonald's, I think it is, two Dunkin' Donuts.
There'll be a
Yeah.
public hearing.
And and it also got gourmet donuts. It's like how many coffee shops do you need? I think it's more reasonable to put some kind of retail store or something like that in here that's something that we would really need. We have vacant
Okay.
buildings, but they need to be filled, whether it be industrial or retail. We need to generate more income coming into the town, and we need more businesses.
All right. Thank you, Rose. All right. So we only have about 10 minutes left, and then I would give everybody a chance to do about a 30-second closing statement, if you will. But so the next series of questions, I'm going to start with Mark and go back. And I'd like you to just limit your answers to almost yes or no, and maybe a quick explanation of why you feel that way. But first question then is, Townsend's been the recipient of some magnificent donations by a local benefactor, the new library, new senior center, a new fire station. But the town hasn't done much with the buildings vacated. What would you do with those buildings, the Hart Free Library and the Center Fire Station?
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. It's funny. I often think of these buildings as when I was a child. Many fond memories of the Hart Library, signing out books, the Center Fire Station when my dad was a firefighter back then. And I'd love to keep them preserved along with other buildings we have here in town. They're wonderful. They really are. But funding these with only town money is really not viable at this time. So I'm thinking possibly grants to help with this, fundraisers, or again, donations would most likely be needed. But it kills me to see these buildings crumble growing up in town and the fond memories that we had. Spalding School, for one, what a fantastic job was done renovating that place. I mean, they're all wonderful buildings and they need to be preserved. They really do.
Okay, thank you, Mark. Monica? On what are we going to do with the Center Fire Station and the Hart Free Library?
Oh, what are we going to do?
Well, no, I think you answered it, Mark. I think
Yes,
that
yes.
you want to preserve them.
Oh, absolutely.
Veronica,
About 3 years ago, there was a survey put out on the website, and a lot of people in town did answer it for the Hart Free Library and the Center Fire Station. The town issued an RFP for those based on the results of that survey. People were looking at the Hart Free Library as a arts center and the Center Fire Station maybe as a vendor space with a coffee shop in back or something like that. There were I don't think there were any responses to the bid. So I would think we should look back at that again and see if we can put those out again. Another option is, depending on the result of the vote on November 6th for CPA, those funds could potentially be used to update those buildings and or be used as a match for grant funding. So without a match, some grants come through for these sorts of things that don't require a match, but it's few and far between. And I just have to say one thing as far as monies go. Our conservation land in town that's owned by the state does generate revenue of about $400,000 a year with payments in lieu of taxes. So I don't want people to think that that land is just sitting there. So that's not the Hart building or the other, but I just had to pop that in there. That's all. Thank you.
Great. Thank you. Thanks for that information. Rose, you mentioned any thoughts about the Hart Free Library or the Center Fire Station, given the fact we've gotten all those donations for those other buildings?
Yes, you could preserve all of the old buildings and reuse or repurpose them. Like Veronica said, either make it like a small coffee shop or even a small, like, small library in the coffee shop. Put a bookstore in there with the coffee shop so they can sit there and read. And I would think that to repurpose and, all of them would be great. I mean, we could possibly get some grants if it's known as an historical preservation building. We can do the fundraising, we can do donations, and they will all help, but we'd have to find out how much it's going to be needed in order to preserve these buildings, to repurpose them or reuse them.
Okay, Laurie?
Well, one, I never heard anything about the destruction of either one of them. And that we have, as Veronica stated, looked into it in the past and didn't get people interested. So they're still there. And I think the effort will be to keep them um, and hopefully someday restore them and have a purpose for them.
Okay, thank you. All right, so the next couple of questions, I'm going to try to go for the yes, no answers. What do you think about moving town meeting from a weeknight to a Saturday? Mark?
Absolutely. And I'd love to have it at the school where there's ample parking and there's no doors and walls in between people. You can see each other. You can see people raising their hand and everybody can hear everything. I'm sure there's a cost associated with it, but we need a big building to hold town meeting that has the ample parking and yes, on a Saturday.
Veronica?
My answer is yes for a Saturday. I would also want voting to move, not to Saturday, but to Hawthorne Brook or the high school. So I would choose those mainly because there's more parking for handicap access. That's an issue at Town Hall.
Okay, and Rose?
Yes, I would agree also. Definitely. I'd like to see it at the school where it's going to be ample parking, plenty of, area for people to come in and listen, and we can all view each other.
Thank you. And Laurie?
I would say yes as well. And in the past, we did hold meetings at Hawthorne Brook and the high school. We've had voting at the high school. So maybe that should come back. I'll just make that quick. And I just think timing is important too, because Saturdays tend to be family days and sports for kids and stuff like that. So I would just be we're, aware of it.
Can I say something on that, John?
Yeah, go ahead.
What Laurie just said. I think we need to look at the charter because I think our day for town meeting is specified in the charter as a Tuesday.
I believe it is, yeah.
So that could, just a thought. I just thought of that when Laurie said that.
Right, right.
Well, we'll look at
Obviously, there's a lot of things that have to be considered in any of these, but yeah. One more quick one. Again, what do you, well, this is going to take more than the time we have left, I'm afraid, as far as, I think you already touched on the trash pickup and pay-as-you-throw.
Yeah.
And I think I just asked people what their thoughts are about the Community Preservation Act that's on the ballot. And Mark?
Yeah, sure. I've got a couple issues with it. I think it's a unique idea to get the money that we need for what Veronica said for the preservation of the buildings. But what I have a hard time with is paying a tax to be able to use our tax money as we want. It just, to me, it turns me off. Another thing about it that I'm not.
You got to make it short, Mark. You got to be be fairly quick because we only got a couple minutes.
The other thing I'm concerned about is the state not reneging. They sure they'll give us the money now, but they've done that to us how many times? The third thing being, yes, I know we can opt out, senior citizens, whatever, but many of the senior citizens have approached me and told me that they're not they're not comfortable giving the town their financial information, which I believe they will have to do. So these are the things that that have come to mind to me.
Okay, thanks, Mark. Veronica?
I'm a yes on
Thinking remnants.
CPA.
Yeah.
Definitely a yes. It's not paid through tax dollars. It's paid through registry fees. That's where the state gets the money from. And the amount that a person in town would pay is not rolled into the tax rate. That 1% is not rolled into the tax rate, so it's not cumulative. As far as people uncomfortable, there's a confidentiality piece that would have to be addressed. And I know that one of the ARPA funded positions is the community services coordinator at the senior center. And there's a confidentiality piece to that position for exactly this reason. People that need funds, whether it's for, oil, heating, or anything, there's a confidentiality piece that needs to be considered. I would agree with
Okay.
that, but people
All right.
should
Thank you.
opt out.
Okay. Thank you, Veronica. Rose, if you could
Yeah.
quickly.
Yeah,
I know
no
we got it.
problem. I'm wondering if we could put like a CPA funding for a community tax fund so that the money would be there and it would just keep increasing because it would be a trust. It's not going to be like a regular bank savings account or checking account or whatever. And that way the CPA funding in the Townsend would go and support the restoration of the buildings, community gardens, upgrade the playgrounds and youth sports.
Okay.
Like,
Thank you. Laurie, on the CPA?
I agree with it because I think that the benefit of finally being involved where many other communities are and have already reaped the rewards of it, and we missed out on it. So, and it's far less expensive now than it was when it first came out.
Okay. One word answers on the next one, yes or no. Would you move our current open town meeting to a representative town meeting? Mark,
No.
Veronica,
I'm a no, but would consider it.
okay. Rose,
no,
Laurie,
No.
okay. I think David might give us 30 seconds each to just give a wrap up. So, Mark, if you could do a closing comment for about 30 seconds.
Sure. Let me think real quick. Again, I'm running for selectman. It's been a passion of mine for many years. And my goal is to bring the board more transparency, honesty, and fiscal responsibility. Again, I have no personal agenda, and my only focus will be what's best for Townsend and its residents. I ask for your vote. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Mark. Veronica?
I'm looking forward to helping keep Townsend moving forward as a community, and I would be honored to have your votes.
Okay, thank you. Rose?
thank you. I'm Rose Lambert, and I am running for Selectmen's Board, and I hope to bring some new ideas and hopefully get everybody on board and see where we can get. That would be it. Thank you, and I would hope that you vote for me.
Okay, thank you. And Laurie?
Okay. Laurie Schifrin. I think it's really important at this juncture in our town with the new TA that we vote in as much as the experience as we can. The reason for my stepping up at this point wasn't my intent, but it was because of all the background I have in all the committees, the boards, and the people that I've served in town. And my other line would be, please volunteer for one of the positions that are vacant. We could use all the help we can get, and this is your community. This is your community. Vote either by absentee ballot the week before or November 16th. Thank you.
Okay. All right. Thank you, everyone. Thank you for participating in this. Just to remind everyone that does see this video that the vote for the two positions for the select board is on November 16th. And as Laurie mentioned, you can vote with an absentee ballot, but there is no mail-in ballots for this election. So I think that's it. Again, thank you to Townsend Community Access Media, and thank you all for participating in this.
Thank
And
you,
have a good
John.
night.
Thank you, Dave, and thank you, everyone.
Thank you,
Good
Laura.
luck.
Pam.
Thank you.
Thank you.